There you go. Doesn't matter what microphone it is. Whatever microphone. I'm so excited to be here. So very excited. Thank you, Tanya. For those of you who don't know, I stood on Tanya's stage for the first time I ever spoke. My very first speaking engagement was for Tanya. Right? That was memories many times ago. Actually, just because I think that's so funny, I'm actually going to start with that. So the very first time somebody was talking about fear earlier, so I'm actually going to address that too. I was so afraid to speak, and Tanya asked me to do it, and I was like, oh, Tanya, no, I just don't want to be a public speaker. And she's like, no, Patty, really, will you do it for me? Over and over she asked me, and finally I said, okay. And I came, and she picked me up from the airport. We got there, and she said, oh, Patty, by the way, they're going to video it. And I was like, what? And she's like, oh, and another thing. I know I told you 30 minutes, but I really need you to do it for an hour because the person after you couldn't do it. And I was like, oh my gosh, it took me like a month to memorize that 30 minutes, right? Because I had never done it. And I went in the bathroom and I got sick, like really sick. And then when I came out, she told me two other things. Be funny. And I was like, oh. And she said, and you're going to need to make an offer. And I was like, what? She's like, an invitation, Patty, you go to events all the time. You can do it. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And I remember getting up there, and I remember watching her, and I'm thinking, oh my God, I don't remember anything she said. But what I do remember is when I got up there, it seemed like it was 5 minutes, and they were holding up the sign. And I was like, oh, you've got to be kidding me. So I didn't really know how to do an offer, and I'm going to tell you, it's so funny, I'm actually going to have to do it for you. You ready? Because I think this is hilarious. When I was trying to do my offer, I didn't know what to do. And I said, okay, Tanya told me to do an offer. I said that for the stage, can you believe that? I said, so I could probably help like 15 or 17 people at the most. Look at my face, this is exactly how I said it. Like 15, maybe 17 people I could help. And my thing went down. And so I thought, okay. And somebody from the audience said, well, what could you help us do? And I said, anything that I would do for you would be helping you to do. And somebody from the background said, how much is it going to cost us? And I said, just like this, at least $2,000. I said that, and I said, and if you think that's what you want, let me know, I'll be at the back of the room. No order form, didn't even know what I was going to do. Here's what I'm going to tell you, though. 37 people gave me their credit card in the back of the room. Very first time. And when I got back there, my husband said, how'd you do? And I texted him. Sometimes I show it. I said, I'm going to learn to be a public speaker. Remember that, Tanya? I'm like, and then when I got done, Tanya's like, you know what the percentage of that is? I'm like, what is that? Like, I didn't know anything about that. That was 5 years ago. And if somebody would have said 5 years later, 90% of my clients are speakers, and I specialize in speaker marketing, I would have laughed. But you never know where your path's going to take you. So today, we're going to talk about social selling and 5 steps to putting social back in sales, because we really know that it's all about building relationships, and it really is about being social. And that was my background, was really being social. So these buttons don't have things, so I have to do it the first time to find out which way. So with that said, I'll just keep going with that story. I'll just tell you. It's all about the story, right? Yeah. So that was the beginning. Tanya kept just saying, Patty, this is what you really need to do. I was really nervous. So what I ended up doing is when those people purchased, and I was like, well, now what am I going to teach them? That was like the next thing. I was like, well, what am I going to teach them? And I had a really good coach. Excuse me?
Which one are you on?
Fabulous. You do not have to be technology, really to be a speaker, just so that you know. So anyway, just to finish up that story, I didn't know what I was going to do, so I called my coach and I said, well, now I sold all this stuff, but what am I going to do? And he said, well, it's not like you don't know what you're talking about, just because you haven't been speaking. And I said, I know, but I can't narrow it down. I have so many things to say. Right? How do I know which ones they want to pay $2,000 for? And he said, well, why don't you do a survey? I said, oh, what a great idea. So I sent him a survey, and I said, if I was going to, what are the top 3 things you'd like to have me teach you? What were the top 3 things you would like to walk away with in this course? And then they wrote back to me, and I said, oh, that's good. I know all those things, and I'll teach them to you. That's really what I did. And I have to tell you, I pretty much use that same formula now, right? I mean, when you're selling something to somebody, when you're inviting them into your programs, really honestly, what you think they need from you and what they really need from you may not be the same thing. So it doesn't hurt to ask, right? It never hurts to ask them what they need. So I find that when I send them that survey and they tell me, it's really clear for me where I need to go. So it actually still works. Okay, so now we'll talk about what I really came to talk about. Right? So here's what I think is really important. The modern consumer is digitally, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have trouble with the clicker and the microphone. The modern consumer is digitally driven, socially connected, and mobile empowered. I think it's really important for, what is that with the, can you guys hear me without the mic?
Take that one.
This was a test from Tanya to see if how far I've come, huh, Tanya? I don't. Oh, that's right. I'm with Tanya. We don't need to be perfect. I am nice, though. So I'm good. So the modern consumer is digitally driven, socially connected, and mobile empowered. I think that's so important for you to remember if it's the only thing you get from me today. Social selling is so important. Sales is important, but being social and relationships are very important. So you need to know that. Digitally driven, socially connected, and mobile empowered. Okay, I'm almost ready to push the button. And we went backwards. Okay. Okay, I already told you who I am now, so now you already know. You already got a good view of who I am. But we'll just skip over that because you were already timing me. Right? She already told me. So let's talk about a few stats that I think it's important that you need to know. This one I think is really interesting, that buyers are already 57% through the purchase process without a sales professional ever speaking to them. How important is that to know if you're being social? 57%. How many of you have made a purchase without ever talking to a salesperson? Right? We do it all the time. Right? So if that's happening and you're using social media to do it, you need to know that. Right? So that's really important. Oh, good. We're on a roll. 74% of today's business-to-business buyers conduct more than half of the research online before they make a decision. I think we do it in everything. I don't know about you, but I don't even go to a movie anymore if I don't go on Facebook and ask everybody what they think. Right? We're so busy, we don't want to waste our time. So now we do research. We do market research, which you should be doing market research, but in our personal life too. Now more than ever, we want to know what other people think. We research before we make a decision. The question is, if they're researching your product, your services, or you, what are they finding? Are they finding the things you want them to find? Because it's not just about did you do good branding. You're the brand, right? So brand versus branding is very important if the brand's not right. So you need to make sure that that is taken care of right up front. 74%. Okay, in 2020, customers will manage 85% of their interactions with a company without ever interacting with a human. We're already doing that now. When's the last time you got to talk to somebody at your bank when you called? Right? You never do. Everybody wants you to email them. Right? Email us, put everything in the little box. You don't get to talk to a person. So more than ever, you need to make sure that socially you can do it. Because if you can't, they're just going to go on to somebody else. Your competition is. Right? So you need to make sure. Buyers who are social media have larger budgets. Typically 84% larger than the budgets of buyers who don't use social media. You know what that means? That means if you're using social media effectively, you're going to make bigger sales because they have a bigger budget. That's important to know. Would you rather sell to somebody, or have you found somebody that you know you could help them and I can't afford it is the answer? That should never be an answer, and it usually means you're not working with the right people, your target market's not right, or you're not using social media correctly. So here's what I find. That when people are really thinking about social media and sales, their heads in the sand, right? Do you feel like maybe that's a little bit of you? You're not using it to the potential you know it can be used. I have to tell you, 74% of my closed sales come from social media, and I've never asked for a sale once on social media. Never asked 74% of my closed business. Because I know how to use social media effectively in my marketing and in my sales. So that's really, really important to get down. Here's the thing I always like to say. Hope is not a strategy. And I think as speakers we do that too, right? How many times you go to an event and you're speaking, and as you're planning what you're going to speak about, and as you're planning what you're going to offer, you're going to hope that the right people are in the audience. That doesn't work, right? As Tanya was saying in the very beginning, how important it is to go to events where your target market is there. Same is said on social media, right? Don't join a Facebook group and hope people are right. Don't go to a LinkedIn group and hope they're right. Don't go to a virtual summit and hope it's right. That's not a strategy. You need to know what you should be doing. You need to know who your target market is. You need to know where you're going to spend your time. So here's the definition of social selling, which is really good. It's the process of developing relationships during the sales process. See, a lot of times we think about building relationships because we're all about connecting, networking. See, for me, I come from a networking background. That's how me and Tanya met in the beginning. But I think that's kind of old school, thinking about old ways of networking. What I like to think about is next working. What happens next after you network? Thank you. Right? I think that's really, really important. So if you can incorporate social in your sales process, that cuts down half the time, warms up the audience, and makes it much, much more effective. So here's what I like to say. And you notice how I love to put tweetables here, and actually you can only see half of it, so I'm going to tell you. If relationships are the currency in today's business environment, how fat is your wallet? Right? If relationships are the currency in today's business environment, how fat is your wallet? Does it look like this, or does it look like that? This, or that? I have to tell you, mine looks like the first. It's really important, and your relationships are the currency that you have today. That's where it's at, and you better make sure you have that right. And when I say currency, I don't mean you want to have a fat wallet of just money, although money's important too, right? You have to monetize your business, and you especially have to monetize your business if that's what you're telling other people you can do, because you have to stay in integrity, right? But it's really, really important to be able to do that. Okay, so if revenue is in the relationship, you have to know the key. So the key is to serve, not sell. I say that all the time. People hear me saying it. It's very, very important. Service, come from service, right? Serve, not sell. But the secret is in these 5 steps. So you ready? Here we go. So the step 1, know your ABCs. And what I mean by that is always be connecting. Always, right? In every single thing you do. At every conference you're at, whether it's live or virtual, every networking meeting, every luncheon you go to, everything you do, you want to be connecting always. That's the name of the game. Always be connecting. And I think it's really, really important that when you're connecting online or offline, that you move one to the other as quickly as you can. Step 2, know your audience. I don't think we can say it enough. You're probably going to hear it from many of the speakers here today. It's very, very important that you know who your audience is so you know where to spend your time. Social media is huge, and there's a lot of it. You need to know, where should I be, right? Also, if you're not talking to the right people, it's noise. And we live in a very, very noisy world right now, and you need to stand out from that. Step 3, there's a reason that God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? You need to listen. You need to listen. Social media is a great place to listen. They will tell you everything you need to know to close them, right? That's sales. But they will tell you everything you need to know to keep it social as well, right? Because you need to be able to provide relevant content and provide value consistently. So that's very, very important to be able to do that. So always be listening all the time. And step 4, this is one of my favorites and how I built my business. Collaboration versus competition. Personally, I don't even believe in competition. I don't have a scarcity mindset at all. I believe in abundance always. But collaboration is really where it's at for several reasons. One, there was a time when I used to think that every great idea I had to do it myself because I didn't want to tell anybody, because I knew somebody would steal my idea. That was, how many of you have ever done that? Right? You don't want to share your ideas with anybody. But I'm going to tell you, an idea that never leaves your living room is just an idea. Right? So what you need to think about is, how could I collaborate? And one of the questions I always ask myself is, who do I know that has a skill set that I don't have, that if we collaborated on this, it could get to the marketplace faster and we could serve more people? Right? Who do I know would make a good collaboration partner so we could get it done faster? Right? If you have a gift, you didn't just get that gift by yourself. God gave you that gift so you could share it with other people. Right? And sometimes you need help. You don't have every skill. As you've already can see, I'm not very techie, right? But I always like to say, I stay in my zone of genius and I hire other people to work in theirs. I don't have to know how to do everything. But because I'm always connecting, I always know somebody else who can do the things that I don't know how to do, and we can get out there faster. So collaboration versus competition. And step 5, this one I think is probably the most important as far as monetizing your business. You want to be able to create social offers. Now, some of those are pretty simple. You could have a contest, you can do a lot of things on social media that are that. But I'm going to use an example. The reason I wasn't here yesterday was because I was in my hometown having a conference of my own. And I'm going to use it as an example on how we created social offers. So because it was a live event, I wrote a paper on, are you tired of going to live events and leaving with business cards and connections that never follow up? Or would you like to leverage live events and get clients in cash? So I'm going to invite you to have that if you'd like, which is returnonevents.com. So if you want to write that down, returnonevents.com. But what I did was I wrote it, and then I went to my website, and what I did is I ran a Facebook ad to everybody who had looked at my event page, everybody who had downloaded my assessment that I did, which I'm sure Jane's going to talk about because that was the best lead gen tool I ever used. And what I did was the people who had gone to that, I ran a Facebook ad and invited them to go to opt in to this event. Now, I knew that they would all not come to my event, of course, but I didn't want to try to sell them right away. I wanted to give them something. By doing that, I looked this morning, 2,700 people opted into that. So how many more, 2,700 people on your email list? Not bad, right? And I just did something that gave them value. Now, obviously, those 2,700 people didn't all come to my event, but now they're on my email list, and I'm going to have a chance to build a relationship with them, and maybe in the future. Make sense? So what kind of social offers can you create in your business? That sounds like a bird. Exactly. So create some type of social offer in your business. So start thinking about that. So whether it's an opt-in, something free, think about what can you offer somebody using social media. On your Facebook page, your LinkedIn page, and your Facebook groups, all of these are opportunities for you to share over and over. We also did it to videos. Videos worked really, really great too, and you can do a lot of ads, Twitter, all of that. So here's where I think it's really important, is knowing who you're making the offer to. Here's where the magic is, right? So other than speaker marketing, my other specialty is list building. And I could talk to you about that all day, but what I really think is important socially is that you segment your lists. So if you're not segmenting your lists on social media, That's where you're leaving money on the table. A couple years ago, I was going to New York City to speak, and the event was going to have about 150 people. I sent one Facebook post, segmented to my New York list, and said, hey, I'm going to New York City. I'd love to be able to meet you all face to face. I'll be at Grand Central Station. Why don't you come? 176 people came. More people that were even at the event. Because socially, I had built a relationship with them, and all I had to do was send one post and say, hey, I'm going to be there. Why don't you come and hang out? And that really worked for me. I segment everything. It doesn't take that long, but if you segment everything, your Twitter list, you should be using Twitter list segmented. Use hashtags to segment. Here's a really big one. This is kind of a ninja tip right now. A lot of times when you go to events, there's another event going on at the same time. How many of you thought, oh, I wish I could go to that too, but I can't be in two places? But I'm going to tell you, they both have a hashtag. And I never lie, so I'm not encouraging anybody to do that and say you're someplace you're not. But what I have done is I will, on breaks, I will tweet and share content that the speakers are giving at the other event. I never say I'm there. I just say, oh my gosh, that's really great. That's great content. I really love it. And you know what always happens? They always create these Twitter lists, and you end up getting put on that Twitter list because they just look to see who was tweeting about that event, and I wasn't even there. And I end up getting put in that Twitter list, and it has got me a lot of speaking engagements too. So kind of think of some different ways that you can do it. So there's a lot of different things there. So always think about social offers. What can I do to serve, not sell? So here's the thing that I think is the most important. And probably the most important thing I'm going to say today that you can take away is this. The only difference between a contact and a contract is the letter R, and that R stands for relationships. Every single person you meet is a contact. But the only difference between that contact and a contract is the letter R, and that R stands for relationships. Oh, thanks. Okay, so right here is the question I get asked the most often. Right here is, how do you do everything? How do you make a decision for what you're going to do when those opportunities come? And actually, I'm really excited that Katarina's in the audience. I haven't seen her in years. She's the one that actually helped me with this. Thank you. So here's what it is. The two chairs, what they represent is that you don't have to do it by yourself. Right? You have a tribe. You have a network. Use them, right? Use them. So you never have to do it by yourself. The table, for me, is like an advisory board for myself. And here's how I use it, and this is how I make my decisions quickly, because I'm going to tell you I can analyze the decision like nobody you've ever seen. I don't know about you. Do you ever think about, oh, should I do this? Shouldn't I? Oh, this is what it's going to cost. What it's going to do? I'm going to have to travel. I'm going to have to stay in a hotel. What am I going to offer? We ask ourselves these questions. This made it very, very clear to me. So here's how I think it would be a visual. Think of a table. Every time an opportunity comes to the table, right? Here's what I ask myself. So there's 4 legs on a table. So the opportunity is at the table. So each leg represents something in your business. So for me, one leg is speaking. Is it a speaking opportunity? One leg for me, is it something about a product that I sell? The other leg, is it about a service that I provide? And the 4th leg, is it something that's near and dear to my heart? Maybe it won't make me any money, but it's something that I really feel called to do. Some philanthropy, a nonprofit, and it's okay to do things that don't make money, right? It's okay. But now when an opportunity comes to the table, I just look and say, does it fit into each one of those legs or one of those legs? And as long as it does, now we can really talk about that. If it does not, it's off the table, and I can say no graciously right now and not have to go through that whole analyzing I have to do. So it's made it really clear once I had that criteria. That's what Katarina did for me. Thank you. So it was really, really important. So think about what it is in your business where you need to spend your time so you can easily make a decision to move yourself forward. What's the transformation you provide? Because we're not in the information business. We're in the transformation business, right? Yes. We need to know that. Okay, so here's what I did. I freed up some time in my calendar. I just got back from London and then my own event, and now here I am. I haven't been home in, I don't know how long. But I'm going home after this, and I'll be home for 8 weeks before my next event. So I freed up some time in my calendar. So if anybody has any questions, kind of wants to discuss this, might want to think about how you could leverage that in your business, here's the way you can do it. Connectwithpatty.com. Just go there, set up some time. It's my calendar, and I'd love to be able to do that with you. Lastly, I'd love to be able to connect and continue the conversation. I'm looking around this room. I only know a few of you, which I love that. I only know a few of you, but I'd love to know all of you. The fact that this is the Public Speakers Association conference means we already have a bond. There's already something that we know. So I'd love to connect, continue the conversation. Here's how you can find me. Obviously, I'll be here the rest of the time. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure to serve you.